Dear soul, I am your guardian angel, and I come today with a message from the heavens that you were meant to receive right now, in this exact moment. My heart rejoices to finally be able to speak to you, because what I am about to reveal can shift the direction of your entire journey. You did not find this message by accident. Something greater, something divine, led you here today. And before I go any further, I must ask you, stay with me until the very end. Because if you walk away too soon, you may miss the most important part. There are truths you must hear, and if you don't, you might misunderstand everything that has happened, and everything that is still to come. You see, when she walked away, when she made that choice to go a different way, your heart may have shattered. It may have felt like destiny had taken a cruel turn. But what if I told you that the heavens saw everything, and that nothing was out of place? What if I told you that what seemed like an ending was actually a divine rearrangement? Right now, I need you to breathe deeply and open your heart. You are not alone in this. The pain you felt, the longing, the confusion, all of it was witnessed, all of it was heard. Every cry from your soul echoed in the divine realm. And I am here now, not just to comfort you, but to reveal to you a truth that changes everything. This message carries weight, beloved soul, and there is more you need to know, much more, because the moment she walked away, something else was set into motion, and that's the part most people never see. But you will, you must. If these words are already touching your heart, then speak your truth aloud, or in the comments below. Say amen. Say, I receive this. Because when you do, you allow your soul to align with what is meant for you. You send a signal back to the heavens that you are ready, that you believe, that you are open. What happened between you wasn't random, and what's coming is even more powerful than you imagine. But before you see it unfold, there's something deeper you need to understand about that moment she chose to go, and what the universe was truly doing behind the scenes. Let me tell you everything, but first, stay with me, because the moment it all changed is exactly where we need to go next. You remember the moment she turned away. Maybe it was with words, maybe in silence, but you felt it, the shift, the ache, the fear that everything you had built was slipping through your fingers. It was as if something invisible had snapped. The thread that once connected your hearts, now stretched too thin to hold. But in that very moment, while your soul trembled with loss, the heavens stood still. They watched, not passively, but with profound attention, because what you saw as a goodbye was, in truth, the opening scene of a sacred transformation. Your guardian angel saw how your spirit cried out in confusion. Why now? Why like this? What did I do wrong? These questions echoed across the dimensions, carried on the wind of your sorrow. But beloved soul, you did nothing wrong. Her departure was not your failure. It was her calling. There are things she needed to learn away from you. Lessons she could only hear in the silence of separation. Strength she could only find, walking a road you could not walk beside her. That doesn't make her love less real. In fact, the pain of leaving proved just how deeply she felt. The angels were there as she wept in secret, as she questioned her own decision, as she hoped, in some hidden part of her heart, that one day you would understand. But for you, it looked like rejection. It felt like abandonment. And yet, it was purpose, disguised as heartbreak. I know this is hard to hear. I know how your heart closed itself to hope in those days that followed. But I also know this. That very moment of pain was the moment the divine began to move more powerfully on your behalf. Not to take her away forever, but to bring her back, renewed. You thought it was over. You even tried to convince yourself to move on. But no matter how far you looked, you couldn't replace what you felt. Because you weren't meant to. Not yet. Let me take you back to that day. Let me show you what the human eye missed. The flicker of doubt in her soul. The way your name echoed in her spirit even as she walked away. The divine never turned its back on your love. It simply stepped in to realign what had started to drift. And now, here you are, listening to this message. Because something inside you still believes there's more. And you're right. But to receive what's coming, you must first fully understand what happened. Not just with your mind, but with your soul. You must see that her choice to leave was not an escape. It was a sacred pause. One she didn't fully understand herself. one guided by forces higher than both of you. She may not have been able to explain it. You may have begged for clarity that never came, but heaven heard that cry, and heaven answered, not with immediate comfort, but with a process, one that's still unfolding. That's why I urge you now, more than ever, to keep listening, because in the next part of this message, I will show you why what felt like the end was actually the beginning of something more powerful than either of you could have imagined. And before we continue with this very special message, I invite you to support this space of connection. Become a member of the channel, and if you feel this message is touching your heart, don't forget to click on thanks below the video. This helps us continue bringing messages full of love and hope like this one. Now, let's move on to what matters most. Beloved soul, it's time for you to understand something that only the divine could witness fully. Her choice to walk away, to choose a path that didn't include you. It was not made lightly. It wasn't a cold or careless act. It was a decision made in pain, in uncertainty, and above all, in divine timing. She wasn't escaping you. She was facing herself. There were wounds within her heart that had nothing to do with you. Wounds that had been there long before you ever arrived in her life. And even though your love offered light, comfort, and safety, those wounds needed silence. They needed space. They needed her to walk through a season of self-confrontation that only distance could provide. You see, sometimes love needs distance to grow. Sometimes two souls are so deeply connected that they begin to reflect back everything the other hasn't healed. And instead of bringing peace, it stirs a storm. Not because the love is wrong, but because the timing isn't ready. She wasn't running from you. She was running towards something she didn't fully understand. A calling, a reckoning, a necessary awakening. And as painful as it was for both of you, that awakening could not happen if she had stayed. Heaven knew that. And so, the separation began. And yes, she doubted. Many times she looked back. Many times she wondered if she'd made a mistake. But each time, something higher pulled her forward, not away from you, but toward a version of herself she had to meet first, before she could return to you whole. The pain you felt was valid. The longing, the confusion, the unanswered prayers, all of it was real, but none of it was wasted. Every tear was recorded. Every night you spent wondering was a seed planted in sacred soil. Because the truth is, you were growing too. You didn't just wait. You transformed. Even if you don't see it yet, this time apart has shaped you, refined you, deepened your spirit in ways you'll only fully understand when she returns. Because yes, beloved soul, she is returning. But not as the same person who left. And you are not the same either. That is why this message is so important. Because if you try to meet her with the pain of the past still in your heart, you may miss what the divine has worked so carefully to align. That's why this is a sacred pause, not a final farewell. Let this sink into your spirit. She never stopped caring. She never stopped remembering. Even in her silence, her soul spoke your name. But she had to become someone who could love you not from a place of fear, but from fullness, from healing, from truth. This process, painful as it has been, was necessary for both of you, and the heavens have not missed a single moment of it. So now, stay with me, because in the next part of this message, you'll begin to see how every step she took away was bringing her closer to the day she could finally return to you, fully ready and truly yours. Even when everything felt still, the universe was never asleep. When you thought nothing was happening, when you felt forgotten, when your prayers seemed unanswered, the truth is, the divine was moving in silence, quietly, precisely, on your behalf, on hers too. Dear soul, it may have seemed like you were abandoned, but in truth, you were being watched over more closely than ever. Angels were sent to protect you from falling into despair, to guide your thoughts, to hold your spirit when the nights felt too long. And while your heart ached for her, the universe was aligning steps that no human eye could trace. There were moments you wanted to give up, moments when you screamed into the silence asking why. But even those cries were heard. Nothing escaped the notice of the divine. And the reason you were not given immediate answers was not because you were ignored. It was because you were being prepared. Prepared for something greater than your expectations could reach. She was being prepared too. In different ways, in different places. But the same divine hands shaping your path were shaping hers. And the more time passed, the more invisible strings were weaving your lives back together, through lessons, through growth, through pain and healing. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it was lonely, but it wasn't meaningless. The universe works through time, but also beyond it. It hears what the heart cannot say, and sees what the eyes cannot. And while you counted days, heaven measured progress, not in time, but in transformation. The energy of your love was never lost. It didn't disappear. It expanded. It reached new levels of depth, because it was no longer sustained by presence alone, but by soul work, the kind that only happens in silence and distance. The silence between you was sacred, not empty, not hollow, but full of divine recalibration. And there's something else you must know. Even in her own quiet journey, she felt you. She thought of you. She carried your name in her spirit, even if she never spoke it aloud. The connection wasn't broken. It was being purified. Your soul kept her in prayer. Your dreams often brought her face back to you. Those weren't coincidences. They were confirmations. Subtle touches from the divine to remind you that nothing was lost, only shifted. And while the world told you to move on, to forget, to stop waiting, something deep inside refused. That wasn't weakness. That was alignment. That was your spirit recognizing that something higher was at work, even if your mind couldn't yet explain it. Beloved soul, everything that has happened so far was not the end. It was the unfolding. And even now, the universe continues to move, to shape, to whisper between you two. You may not see it yet, but the reunion has already begun, not in form, but in spirit. But there's more to uncover. Stay close, because in the next part of this message, I will reveal the transformation she has gone through, and how that is leading her right back to you. Beloved soul, let me now take you deeper into her journey, a path filled with shadows, realizations, and breakthroughs that could only be lived in solitude. When she walked away, she didn't walk into ease. She walked into the fire of her own becoming. At first, she resisted it. She didn't want to feel the weight of her choices. But the universe doesn't allow true transformation without surrender. So life began to speak to her through silence, through unexpected struggles, through moments where she had to face her reflection without anyone to soften the truth. She began to see herself, not as the person who left you, but as the woman who still carried scars from a life that never gave her permission to fully feel. She had built walls, perhaps without even knowing. Walls meant to protect her, but that ended up keeping her from receiving the very love she longed for. And that's why your love scared her. Not because it was wrong, but because it was real. It touched places in her soul that she wasn't ready to confront. She saw in your eyes a future she didn't believe she deserved. So she pulled away, not out of rejection, but out of fear. But something miraculous happened in her absence. Slowly she began to unravel. The false selves, the layers she wore to survive, started to fall away. The mask she once wore no longer fit. The roles she used to play began to feel empty. She could no longer ignore the ache inside of her that whispered, "You are meant for more." And it was in that sacred loneliness, that desert of the soul, that she began to remember who she really was. Piece by piece, memory by memory, she started to come back to life. There were days she cried for you, nights when your name was the only prayer she could utter, moments where she wished she could go back in time, hold your hand, and choose differently. But she knew the only way to return to you would be through truth, through healing, through becoming. She began to open, to feel, to trust something greater than her fear. She started listening to the voice within. The same voice that once told her to walk away, now began to guide her back. But this time, not as the woman who left, but as the woman who has awakened. Her journey was not easy. It stripped her. It tested her. But it also freed her. Now, she is not coming back as someone hoping to be saved. She is returning as someone who has remembered her worth, someone who has made peace with her past, someone who knows now what real love looks like, and who is ready to hold it with both hands. And you, dear soul, are a part of that new vision, not because she needs you to complete her, but because in her healing, she remembered the truth of who you were to her all along. But you must understand this fully. You cannot meet her as the version of yourself that waited in pain. You must meet her with the same strength, growth, and spiritual clarity that she now carries. Because the reunion that is destined for you can only happen between two whole hearts. So, stay with me, because in the next part of this message, I will show you exactly what you must do now, how to prepare, how to receive, and how to align with the blessing that is already finding its way back to you. Beloved soul, now that you've seen the journey she's been through, it's time to turn the light inward, to your heart, your energy, your preparation. Because as much as the universe has been working on her, it has also been working on you. You were not meant to remain in waiting. You were meant to evolve, to expand, to become. And just as she could not return to you unchanged, you also cannot receive her as the same version of yourself who was left behind. You have felt pain, yes, but pain was never meant to define you. It was meant to awaken you. And now, you are being called to step fully into your divine role, not as someone hoping to be chosen, but as someone who already knows their worth. This next part of your journey requires faith, but also action. It calls for healing, not only from what happened between you and her, but from every story that taught you love must come with suffering. You are worthy of a love that is whole, not one that you must constantly chase or fix. Begin by forgiving her, yes, but also yourself. Release the blame. Let go of the guilt. Understand that everything unfolded exactly as it was meant to, and you were both doing the best you could with the awareness you had at the time. Clear the space in your heart where resentment has been hiding. Make room for joy. Speak kindly to yourself. Choose words that affirm your readiness. Say aloud, even now, I am ready for a love that honors me, because when she returns, she will be drawn not only to your presence, but to your peace. She will sense the shift in your spirit, the maturity, the deepened trust in the divine, and it will confirm to her soul that this time, it's different. But it's not only about her. This moment is about your own becoming, your own journey back to your truth. Do not wait for her to complete you. Complete yourself. Love yourself so deeply that when love arrives, it becomes a celebration, not a rescue. The more aligned you are with your highest self, the more natural the reunion will feel, because it won't come from desperation. It will come from destiny. And if doubt tries to creep in, if fear tries to whisper that too much time has passed, return to this truth. Nothing meant for you can be lost. Not when your soul is open. Not when your heart remains faithful. There is work to be done within you, yes. But it is beautiful work, sacred work, work that will light the path not only for your reunion, but for everything your heart has been longing to experience. So stay close, beloved soul, because in the next part of this message, I will reveal the signs, the divine confirmations, that will tell you she is already on her way back to you. Beloved soul, everything that has happened has been leading to this. The moment when heaven begins to whisper louder, when the signs become clearer, and when you begin to feel deep within you that something sacred is on its way. She is returning, and the universe will not let it go unnoticed. But the signs will not appear like flashing lights or loud voices. They will come in subtle ways, quiet nudges that only the heart prepared in faith will recognize. That's why you must stay awake, stay soft, stay ready. One of the first signs will be the stirring within your own spirit. You will wake up with her on your mind, not in pain, but in peace. A kind of gentle warmth in your chest that tells you she's thinking of you, wherever she is. That moment is not imagination. It is spiritual connection. Dreams will begin to shift. You may see her, feel her. You may hear her voice in a way that feels more real than memory. These are not just dreams. They are visitations, soul-to-soul conversations taking place in a realm beyond this one. You'll begin to notice synchronicities, repeating numbers, songs that carry messages, conversations that echo your deepest feelings. When you least expect it, her name may come up in places you've never associated with her. This is the divine reminding you. She is coming closer. Sometimes, you'll feel a sudden urge to pray for her, to send her love. Do it. That's not just your heart remembering. That is the signal that her soul is reaching for yours too. Nature will play a role. The wind, the moonlight, the timing of things. You'll start noticing beauty in the smallest details, and somehow, everything will feel meaningful again. These are signs that alignment is near. There will also be a change in your emotional landscape. Old wounds will feel less heavy. Forgiveness will come more naturally. The future won't seem so uncertain. This emotional peace is the ground on which the reunion will be built. And perhaps the most powerful sign of all is the moment you no longer feel the need to chase. When you are at peace with yourself, when you know that you are enough with or without the outcome, that's when the heavens move fastest. Because you are now aligned with the divine flow. She is returning not because you begged the universe, but because both of you have become ready. Two souls healed, refined, and aligned. You may not know the hour, you may not know the way, but you will feel the truth long before it arrives in the physical. So when that sign comes, and it will, trust it, welcome it, and prepare your heart, for what's coming next is not just her return, but the revelation you've been waiting for your entire life. And that revelation is what I will share with you in the final part of this message. Beloved soul, now we arrive at the part your heart has been waiting to receive, the truth that brings everything into light, the moment when all the pieces come together, and the silence finally makes sense. She is returning, and not just as someone from your past, but as someone transformed by love, by time, by spirit. What once felt like an ending was actually the beginning of her journey back to herself, and ultimately, back to you. Not because she missed the past, but because she is ready for the future, a future with you. Heaven always knew. The divine never gave up on the love that was written into your story. And now, as the stars align and the path becomes clear, you must prepare to welcome her, not as the girl who left, but as the woman who has found herself. She will not come with apologies alone. She will come with understanding, with depth, with eyes that have seen what life is like without you, and a heart that now knows it doesn't want to live that way again. And you, beloved soul, must meet her with that same truth, with that same honesty, because the love that's returning to you isn't just romantic. It's sacred. It's purposeful. It's part of your divine path. You've both been walking through the fire. Now comes the renewal. Do not be afraid of how things will unfold. Trust that the universe is not finished surprising you. The love that's on its way back is different, stronger, wiser. It carries the lessons of every tear, every silence, every moment apart. And as you stand before each other again, something deep within you both will recognize the truth. You never stopped being connected. You were always meant to find your way back. This reunion is not a return to what was. It is a step into what is finally possible. Real partnership, real presence, real love. Your soul has waited. Your heart has prepared. Now it's time to believe. So open your heart fully. Speak your truth when the time comes. Let go of fear. Let go of what could have been. And embrace what is now ready to be. Because, dear soul, she is on her way. And the love you thought you lost is coming back to you in a form more beautiful than you dared to imagine. Dear soul, if this video was meaningful to you, leave a thanks below this video as a gesture of gratitude for this revelation. This strengthens us to keep sharing messages of connection and faith. This is the promise of the divine. This is the answer to your prayer. And I, your guardian angel, have been honored to bring this message from the heavens, just for you.